Hello everyone, welcome to Learn DAX channel. My name is Sudesh and this is the sixth video in the end-to-end project video series in which we are converting a bunch of business problems into DAX queries. If you haven't watched the first 5 parts, I would really encourage you to go ahead and watch those videos as we are building one video at a time. I will leave the link in the description, be sure to check them out. So for today's demonstration, we again have 3 questions and let's start with them one by one. So the first question is, we need to calculate the return on investment for each product. So what do you mean by that? In order to demonstrate that, I've just created a simple table in Excel, which is going to demonstrate us what do we mean by return on investment in the context of each product. So for example, I have a product called shoes, and let's say the cost of goods sold or the cost to manufacture it is rupees 80. And let's say I'm selling it at rupees 100. In that case, the profit that I make is simply my selling price minus the costs, which is rupees 20 in this case. Now, my return on investment is essentially the amount of profit that I made on my initial investment, which is rupees 80. So when I sell my shoes at rupees 100, not only am I getting back my investment, which is rupees 80, on top of that, I am making some more money, which is rupees 20. And that 20 as a percentage of my initial investment is going to be my return on investment, which in this context happens to be rupees 20 divided by rupees 80 because rupees 20 is the additional money that I got on the investment of rupees 80. Now let's take another case. If I am selling a jacket which cost rupees 60 to manufacture and I'm selling it at a price of 120 rupees, it means that upon selling one jacket, not only am I recovering the initial investment cost which is rupees 60, but I'm also getting an additional rupees 60 on top of my initial investment. So in this case, my return on investment is going to be this rupees 60, which is the profit, divided by initial investment, which is rupees 60, which means I'm making 100% return on investment. And we just want to calculate that in the context of each product that we are selling. So let's get back to Power BI and let's create measures for that. So right now I am back in my Power BI and I'm going to create a new measure. I will call it COGS, cost of goods sold. Now that will be my orders, and I'm going to get my quantity from my orders table, and I'm going to get my cost, not the price, from my products table. So I will write related products price. So if you are new to this related function, I already have created a video on the related and related table function. I will leave the link in the description. You can check it out and get a refresher on how the related and related table functions work. So I hit enter and let me just get myself a new page. I will pull the cogs here. I will convert it into a card. So my COGS happens to be 108K. Let me just take a quick check. Okay. Now the sales amount is something that we have already created in our previous videos where we multiplied the quantity by the price at which we are selling. So let me just pull this quickly here, convert it into a card. So there is some difference. Oh, let's just check. These values should not be the same. Maybe that's because of the formatting. So let's go to the callout value. Let's change the display units to none. And let's change the display units to none. Well, they are exactly identical. There's something wrong with that. Okay, I had to place in cost here. I just mentioned that we need to consider the cost, and I'm the one who used price instead. So yeah, that's why we need to check while we are doing our calculations. So now we have verified that the COGS is 72565. If you want to take another check, then we can go to our maybe orders table and we can maybe create a new table or new column rather, and we can call it COGS amount will be, well, what will it be? It will be my orders quantity into my related products. This time I'm going to use the cost, not the price. Products cost. So what if I just sum this whole thing up and create a new measure just for the sake of verifying it? So COGS verified, verify COGS will be my sum of COGS amount from my orders table, and we'll delete this. We just are calculating it on the fly to verify if our calculations are correct. Let me change the callout value to none. Yeah, we are correct. So I'll just quickly delete this. We don't need this anymore. So ROI will be in this case my sales amount minus my COGS divided by my COGS. If I go back to Excel, that's exactly what we did. My profit was rupees 20 and my COGS were rupees 80. So my return on investment was my profit, which is selling price minus cost price divided by my cost price. So I'll apply the same logic. I'll go to Power BI. I'll create a new measure and let's call it ROI. That will be divide. I would need the sales amount minus my COGS and I will divide it by COGS. And for a 0 by 0 condition, the alternate result has to be 0. I need a percentage. I multiply it by 100. And there we are. So I bring this onto my screen and I see the value as 48.65. But what does this 48.65 mean? I mean, is it that every product is having the return on investment as 48.65, or is this average of the return on investment for all products? I don't know what it means. So in order to understand the context of what this number indicates, I will pull out the product name from the products table, and in the same I will get the ROI in the second column. So now I'll delete this, and now I see that for, let's say, the Apex Yoga mat, the return on investment happens to be 66.67%. For the Blitz boxing gloves, the return on investment happens to be 100%. So let's do a quick check for Apex Yoga mat and Blitz boxing gloves. Why do these names feel like tongue twisters? So getting back to my orders table, but before that, I would need to know the product ID, or I can just go to the products table. Okay. So the first thing that we wanted to check was Apex Yoga mat. So let me pull out the calculator. So the cost price is 15 and my selling price is 25. 25 minus 15 divided by 15 into 100, which is 66.67%. So if I go back to my report and I check for Apex Yoga mat, okay, 66.67%. Let's choose Cyclone Mountain Bike because Blitz boxing gloves is too much of a tongue twister for me. So Cyclone Mountain Bike has having a return on investment of 33.33%. I go back to this products table. I have the cost as 375 and price as 500. Again, let's call our friend calculator, and the profit will be 500 minus 375 divided by 375 into 100, which is 33.33%. If I go back to my report view and check for the Cyclone mountain bike, yeah, it is 33.33%. So we have verified that. So we are done with the first part of our question. Now let's move on to the second part. So the second question states that we need to calculate the average order value for each supplier where the orders are placed on weekends. So like some orders are placed on weekdays, some are placed on weekends, and we just want to calculate the average value that for the sales that have happened or for the orders that have been placed on weekends, which include Saturday and Sunday. So let's head over to Power BI and let's start solving this problem. Now if I go to my orders table, I have the order date, but I don't have the day. Like I don't know if 1st of July is a Saturday or a Sunday or a Monday or a Tuesday. So how do I do that? How do I calculate or how do I figure out if 1st of July is a Monday or a Tuesday? Well, we are going to use a new function for this, which is the week num function. So if I or the weekday function. So if I go to the documentation for the weekday function, I have to pass in the order date or the date in this case, and that is going to return me the day number. So for example, if my return type is 1, in that case it is going to give me the day number such that 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 corresponds to Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. In order to explain this simply, let's go back to Excel. I've created a simple table so you'll get an understanding of what exactly we mean by that. So we are going to pass in two arguments. The first is the date and the second is the return type. If the return type happens to be 1, and even if you don't pass in the return type, it's going to by default consider it as 1. In that scenario, the days are going to be numbered such that Sunday happens to be 1, Monday happens to be 2, Tuesday happens to be 3, and so on till Saturday, which is supposed to be 7. If I instead mention the return type as 2, my week will start from Monday, which corresponds to 1, and my week will end on Sunday, which corresponds to 7. If I instead use 3 as the return type, my day will start from Monday, but now the day number is going to start from 0. I'm going to use the default one, which is return type as 1, and I want Sunday to be 1 and Saturday to be 7. So let's head back to Power BI and create this new column. So right now I'm in Power BI again. Where are we? We need to go to the orders table and let's create a new column. And let's call this column day number, will be weekday. Was it weekday or was it week now? Yeah, it was weekday. Can be confusing. So we have the order date and the return type is 1, like I mentioned. So which implies that if 1st of July happens to be 2 as per my return type 1, which means 1st of July is a Monday. Because if I go back to Excel, and since my return type is 1, so Monday should be 2 and Tuesday should be 3. So let's just go back to our Power BI, and so Monday is on 1st of July and Tuesday is on 2nd of July. Now let's go back to calendar. So if I go here and if I check, Monday was the 1st of July, Tuesday was the 2nd of July, and 7th of July happened to be Sunday and 6th of July happened to be Saturday. Let's go back to Power BI. Let's verify if 6th of July happens to be 7, which is a Sunday, which is a Saturday or Sunday. Let's just check. 6th of July happens to be a Saturday. So as per this, I should be getting 5th of July as a Saturday. So if I go to my calendar, 6th of July is Saturday, yes. Okay, the 5th of July is showing me as 6. If I go to Excel, 6, okay, 6 is Friday, 7 is Saturday, my bad. 6th is Friday, which means 5 should correspond to 6 in this case. So see, 5th of July corresponds to 6, which is a Friday. 6th of July happens to be a Saturday, corresponds to 7. And 7th of July, which is a Sunday, corresponds to 1. So we have the day number, but we still don't know if it's a weekday or a week num. We don't have a function which is going to give us the weekend or weekday. Or if there is, we are not going to use this in this video. What we are going to do is, I create a new column and I'm going to use the if condition. If you need a refresher on the if condition, I've already created a video on the same. I will leave the link in the description. You can go check it out. So I create a new column. I will call it week day type. So it's a weekday or a weekend. Will be if my day number is 1 or is it 7. This is like an or condition, okay? If I use double ampersand, it is going to be an and. If I use this, it is going to be an or. So if orders day number happens to be 7, which is if 1 is a Sunday, let's go back to Excel. Yeah, if 1 is Sunday, then 7 is Saturday. So if it is 1 or 7, then it should be a weekend, right? And if it's the other way around, it should be a weekday. If I close this bracket, now we have an error if we are comparing. Okay, these are numbers and we are using them as text, so I don't need these double quotes in this case. Now I think we should get the correct output. Yeah, which we do. So 1st of July is a Monday, it's a weekend. 5th of July is a Friday, it's a weekend. 6th and 7th is my weekend. 5th of July was a weekday. 6th and 7th is Saturday and Sunday, which is my weekend. Now again, let's go to 13th of July, which should be a Saturday again, and 14th of July should be a Sunday. So it is a weekend. So that part is figured. We now have the weekend and weekday sorted. Now let's try and build a DAX query for that same. Now I will create a new table. I will call it average sales amount week end will be, let's use the summarize function. We need the orders table. I need the supplier's ID because we want to calculate the average order amount for each supplier on week ends. So I have the supplier name. Now let's also take the total sales amount and we'll also get the average amount. Let's keep both the rows, both the columns rather. Orders sales amount. We already had created this column previously. And now we need the average sales amount, which will be average X orders sales amount. And now we want the filter condition such that my day of day type. Okay, now we have run into a problem. While I did use the summarize function to get the average sales amount and total sales amount, but I want to filter it by the day type as weekday, but I'm unable to do so. Now, in case we were not using a table function, we would use the calculate, and using calculate, we would use the first condition as the expression and the second would be our filter. But since we are using a table function, so we are going to, instead of calculate, use the calculate table function. So I'm going to wrap this thing around a calculate table. Now this gives me the first argument as a table and second will be my filter. So now I can filter by the day type. Is it the day type? I think it is. We can check later. It should be weekend and then give me the output. So let's go back. I just want to verify if it's the day type, if you're correct. Yeah, it is the day type. So now let's pull out one value, all the columns from this newly created table. I need the supplier ID. I want it to be a table, not a bar chart. Don't summarize. I would need the supplier name. I would need the total sales amount and the average sales amount as well. Now, if I expand this, so let's do some quick checks for some suppliers. Let's go with supplier ID 1 and with which one? Let's go with active supplies. So supplier ID 1 and 5. So for supplier ID 1, the total sales amount happens to be the same as the average sales amount, implying that maybe all the sales that they have made happen to be on weekends, which is why we are getting that the total sales amount is also the average sales amount. So let's go quickly to our orders table and let's change the supplier ID to 1. Was it 1? Yeah, supplier ID 1. And let's change the day type to a weekend. So yeah, there's only one order that has been placed on 21st of July, which happened to be a weekend, which is why we are seeing that the sales amount and the average sales amount happens to be the same. Let's try with some other, like I mentioned, active supplies. Let's go with supplier ID 5. If I do that, and if I retain this as the weekend, so I see that the sales amount happens to be 1000 plus 765, which is 1765. Over 2 weekends, which happens to be these two dates, it would give me the average as, let me pull out the calculator, 1000 plus 765 divided by 2, 882.5. So if I go to my view, for active supplies, the average sales amount for the weekends happens to be 882.5. So yeah, we have verified that. So we can successfully close the second question, and now let's move on to the third question. So let's go to the third question. So we need to calculate the following. Quite a few calculations that we need to do here. The first is we need to calculate the number of on-time orders. So we need the count of orders for which the delivery days happen to be less than or equal to 2 days. We need to calculate the delayed orders for which the delivery days happen to be greater than 2 days. Now we need to calculate the corresponding sales amount for the orders which happened in the stipulated delivery days less than or equal to 2. And we also need to calculate the sales amount for the deliveries that happened which exceeded 2 days, which corresponds to the delayed sales amount. So let's go calculating these one by one. I go back to Power BI and let's start creating measures for that. Now my on times orders would be the count of, wait, I will use the calculate function because I need a filter in this case, would be the count of order ID such that the shipment's delivery days happens to be less than or equal to 2. Okay, let's get a new page and then we'll pull all these different KPI cards. So, okay, we are getting on-time orders as 50. This is strange. Let's also calculate the delayed orders. I'll tell you why this is strange, because the total orders in our shipments table are 50. So it's suggesting that all orders are on time. Well, good job, suppliers. Will be calculate count order ID such that shipments delivery days happens to exceed 2 days. This should give us 0 in that case, right? If I pull it here. So we've got a problem. Our on-time orders and our delivery delayed orders happen to give us the same output, even though there are a total of 50 shipments only in our shipments table or in our orders table. So what could be wrong here? So if I go to the data model, I see that there is no relation between my orders and my shipments table. And so it is not giving me the correct output. Now, if I go ahead and create a relationship between these two tables, let's say order ID with this order ID, it's still creating a relation, but like you see, it's a dotted line, it's not a solid line, so it's kind of an inactive relationship. So okay, relationship created anyways. Let's go back to our visual and let's see if it works. Well, it doesn't work. And how do we get around it? So there is a function in Power BI called as use relationship. So in case when there is an inactive relationship between the two tables and you still want to leverage it, you are going to use something called as the use relationship function. So I write use relationship and I will use the orders. So I need the order ID from the orders table and the order ID from the shipments table. And I close this bracket and now I get the correct output, which is 20. So I have 20 on-time orders because if you have gone through all my videos, we have actually calculated in some places where the on-time orders were 20 and the delayed orders were 50 minus 20, which is 30. Now, if I just do the same change in my delayed orders, which is use the use relationship function and orders ID and my shipments order ID, then I should get here 30 as the output, which I get. So we have verified that as well. Now the next thing we want to do is corresponding to the on-time orders, I want the sales amount. So if my shipments reached on time, then what was the sales amount of those shipments? And if my shipments were delayed in their delivery, then what was the sales amount corresponding to them? So I call it on-time sales amount will be calculate. I will use the measure that I've already created earlier, which is the sales amount, such that delivery days exceeds or is less than or equal to 2. But if I calculate that, let's bring this here. Let's just check. So it's giving me a wrong output because this is the sales amount and this is the COGS. If this is the sales amount overall, then why is on-time sales amount same as my overall sales amount? And that is again because I did not use the use relationship in this case. So if I use again the use relationship function, I will get the correct output. So again, orders order ID and shipments order ID and enter. And now you will see that the orders, the on-time sales amount is going to give me the correct output. So if I go back to my callout value, change the units to none, this is my on-time sales amount. I want to create the delayed sales amount as well. So delayed sales amount would be calculate sales amount and again use relationship between my orders order ID and my shipments order ID. Shipments and then I need the delivery days to exceed 2 and then I hit enter. So that should keep me how much the difference between the total sales and the on-time sales amount. Let me change this to a card first. Let me change this call out value display next to none. So my delayed sales amount happens to be 48775 and on-time sales amount happens to be 59090. So this brings us to the end of this video series as well as this video. If you enjoyed watching this, please share it with your friends and please leave your thoughts and feedback in the comments. Until then, thanks for watching and happy learning.